Hello friends, Jennifer Pearson here, Thistle Gypsy. Bit of a warning, I do have Rufus and Zippy in the room, in the house. The window is cracked. And so if anybody walks by on the street or a dog barks, we might be disrupted. But we can hope for a peaceful, relatively short reading. So I'm taking today's spread, well, I'll say this, I'm taking the inspiration for today's spread from a spread in Sasha Graham's, if I can speak, Sasha Graham's 365 Tarot Spreads book. And this is called the Haunted House Spread, and it's on February 27th of that book. And 3 of the questions come directly from it, so I guess most of it actually is, but I reordered them. Kind of put them, the first question and the last question are the same. What is the energy of this place, and what can I do to release it? Well, and the second to the last is the same, but it's in a little different context. So that's probably all meaningless to you, so let's get on with the spread. So this is for 29 tarot spreads in 29 days, and I'm again using the Greenwood, and I wanted to try this. Not because I think my house is haunted. I'm not somebody terribly sensitive to that sort of thing, but I do wonder about the energy of this place. So both the land and my house. So my house, the core of it is from 1950, a little house built in 1950. And I think there's not much left anymore of what that house was. I think they put a lot of stuff over the frame and, kind of had it pretty much stripped down at one point. And this house was originally not on this land, is my understanding. And this land is screwy because it's essentially construction, or you might say destruction fill. So it's full of broken pieces of concrete and asphalt and dirt that was used to fill in a marshy area to build up enough land to put some houses on. So yeah, there's just all kinds of ways that things could not be really well or healthy, or that there could be energies that are not perfectly happy. So question number 1. So I just wanted to look into that, just to suss it out. So we might say that this is less a haunted house spread, the way I'm using it, or my intention as a house clearing spread. So I'm going to say this. I'm going to change this, and I may keep this. Spread for future use. I'll prop it here. Okay, what is the energy of this place? How interesting. The Page of Stones. So, this is a happy energy to me. Though, because I take this as, when I came up with advice, treating the court cards in this deck as advice, the advice of this one is lean on your friends or get the help of your friends. So to me, that's happy energy. But there's also this hermit, that this little bird is shy, it seems to me, and to me the wren is the helper, encouraging it to come out. So there is this shy, timid, hermitish quality here. And certainly that's how I'm living here. So that's interesting. I don't think of myself as shy, but certainly this house, I can't call it a hideaway because it's just, it's on a street with other houses, etc. But it's my inner sanctum. And so that is the energy of this place, is somehow being an inner sanctum for someone. So very interesting. And to me, that has positive and negative aspects to it. All right, so I am going to go on to number 2. My question number 2 is if there is anything problematic in number 1, which to me this is a little problematic, not hugely, because I am naturally hermitish. But if there's anything sort of withdrawn in the energy of this house, for example, if there's anything that prevents friends from coming in, which has been kind of my experience here, then what would that be? Okay, so if there is anything problematic in number 1, what can I do to make a positive shift in the energy? So that is the next card. Death. So this is almost like the Tower, you know, in terms of stripping things away. It can literally mean cleaning it. To me, in the instance of this house, it would probably indicate some remodeling, redoing the inside. Would make it, at this point, certainly more hospitable. But I doubt that I am going to put the money into doing that. There are some things I feel I need to do for my health, etc. But you know what? I just don't have enough money to do a total stripping, and I don't know how long I'm going to be in this house. So, but still useful to know. So number 3, 3A. So I've got 3A, B, and C. So if A turns out to be there's nothing, there's no problem, if it can be interpreted in that way, then I don't even have a B and C, and we stop at number 3. 3A. 3A, is there any negative energy from past inhabitants or events affecting my home or land? I would say mostly not with this card. I might take another one, because to me this is almost like, you know, when your computer has the little circly thing, or, you know, if you're on hold and they're connecting or looking up information, there's a little doot 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 sound. To me, this is almost like, with this, we're looking into it, we're looking deeply, we're looking into it right now. Give us a second, give us a second. Ah, we have pulled out a snake. So to me, this is partly a card of what, partly a card of, we're looking into this. We understand, we're looking. And then there's something was in there. And since it's a snake, I'm going to look into what is the snake. So if you, so what is the snake? So what are these are my queens. So I'm going to look up the advice, how I had created advice for my court cards here. Where did it go? So I want kind of advice particularly for this. Where's my rabbit advice? Did I not do the rabbit? Hair. I have hair. This too shall pass. Transitions are magic sometimes. Are magic times. Transitions are magic times. And which makes sense because that transitions or transmutation, that sort of thing, is often associated with the snake in terms of shedding its skin. And this rabbit is going from night into day. And that's when rabbits or hares are active, right at dawn and dusk, generally. So, so maybe this is a place where people normally wouldn't stay. You know, maybe this is a place where people frequently would move on. So interesting. Or it could be even that it needed, well, of course, there is the transition aspect of what I had mentioned about the land itself being fill. In other words, what my land is composed of is some bulldozed development or something that was made of concrete and asphalt. You know, it could have been a roadway or something. I don't think that's particularly, indicated here. It could have been an old shopping mall, an old school, something where they were clearing the land of a building, and they decided to use that dirt and concrete and asphalt to fill in a place. So that is literally physically the remnants of a transition. It's not a snake shedding its skin, but it is human beings skinning their own development off of the earth and then dumping it elsewhere. So let's just continue with the additional questions here. So this was just an extra card to look into what the snake was, but is there any negative energy from past inhabitants or events affecting my home? To me, I would say it's little. I mean, it's the entire card is not negative. So I would say, well, there is this one thing, it's not a big thing, just kind of got a handle on it, but there is this one thing. And then this was just a card to ask, what is this thing? So if yes, so there's this transitory aspect. What holds this transitory aspect here? What creates that? So the Knight of Cups, and the advice of the Knight of Cups, I think, has something to do with homing. No, it's just homing. There's no advice. Homing. I don't know if, the importance of homing. So maybe this house, because it's quite small, was never intended to be a permanent residence. I mean, it's not so small. It's not a tin box or anything. It's 1,200 square feet. It's larger than the previous home I'd had. But it could have been like a series of row houses in a development originally before it came to this spot. That that had the assumption that, the people would stay there. I mean, it could have been rented homes. Again, the assumption being that the person would rent for so long and then they would leave, and then and and go buy a house or something. So there could have been an assumption that the people would be transitory. Um, and this, so it's kind of built into the whole idea of the house, was that it would not hold inhabitants here. And then, the salmon is also highly transitory. It when it comes home, it deteriorates. It spawns, it deteriorates, and it's dead and gone. So, maybe this house was intended to only be for people who were just starting their families, and then they would move on or something. So interesting. What can I do to release this energy, this transitory energy? And I don't know that I want to, but we're going to ask the question for the sake of the spread. The Queen of Arrows. Well, to me that already indicates, because it's so infused with, the happy, loving, and this, animal is going nowhere. In kind of, loving the home and infusing it with positive energy. And that's pretty much what I have as the advice for the Queen of Arrows is shine your light and be proudly unique. So it's a little bit back to this in terms of stripping it and changing it. I've actually done quite a bit to work on the land, which hasn't been terribly useful in the long run, because I just can't keep it up. And as I said, part of this makes me think in terms of, especially with this, and I was just entertaining this notion kind of for the very first time, because I don't know how you do that. Normally we don't demolish a house and start anew unless there's an accident, because it's expensive. So if my house were damaged by a tornado or something like that, to the extent that it couldn't be patched but had to be rebuilt. In other words, insurance kicks in. But some of this makes me think, all right, well, what if I were to eliminate this house? This is pretty much what I would have to do to make it truly a livable situation. I would have to, well, I can't say that. There are things I could do, and I'm going to do, that will make the house better without completely demolishing it, more livable. But if I were to do this, to make it totally unique, or even it's suggested by this, it dies and provides the groundwork for the next, whatever is next, would be a matter of demolishing the house, building up this land properly so that it isn't a swamp. And it isn't. I'm up on higher ground that slopes back, but the nature of the ground is such that water sits on it instead of flowing off or soaking in. When you got a bunch of asphalt and concrete, it's hard for it to go anywhere, so it just sits there. It doesn't look like asphalt and concrete. You have to go down a foot or so, but so it just looks like a normal yard. But so I would have to do that, build it up somehow, and I don't know what that would involve. Like, part of it would probably have to be gravel, so the house would have to have some sort of draining base so that it isn't sitting directly on ground that holds water, which is a huge problem. And then from there, once that situation is dealt with and amended, then build a house on that. Unless I get rich, that is not happening. Maybe even if I got rich, that would not happen, because then I would move because the whole environment here doesn't work for me. So, an interesting investigation. I think it's kind of nice because it nothing, in many ways, nothing I didn't already know came out. There's no, there were no crazy, weird cards, excessively negative cards. And this deck really doesn't have a lot of, I think I went through and sorted it according to negative and positive, and to me this deck doesn't have much in the way of particularly negative cards. Even this, the Five of Stones, she's in shelter at the moment, so and some of them have been that would normally be negative in the Rider-Waite-Smith. It just have kind of a different card, or a different take on that card completely. It still does have negative cards, but all right. So I've rambled, as I do. So there is that spread. I will have it down in the description box. I'll put the questions down there, and I will be back again. So this is the penultimate 29 tarot spreads in 29 days. So I will have one more tomorrow. All right, everybody, take care. Bye-bye.